Hi, this is Tracy. Today I'm going to talk about sex education. Do you still remember that how your mother told you about your birth? I mean the way how you were produced. When I asked my mom, she just told me that, oh, you emerged from a walk. Oh, magic. You won't believe it now because you're educated. But I believe that most of the traditional Chinese families tend not to tell their children about the truth about sexual intercourse. In my secondary school in Macau, we did have biology class, but the teacher just told us about the difference between female and male sexual organs, but they didn't mention about the contraception and the safe sexual intercourse. And now I'm going to tell you more about the history of Chinese sex education and the reason why they are so reluctant to teach their children about sex. In 1949, when the communists first came to power, sex was a very strict taboo to all the Chinese. However, when the opening period began in mid-1970, the first sex education was taught in Shanghai in 1981, and in the same year, the Ministry of Education announced that all the middle schools will teach sex education throughout the country. But unfortunately, in 1988, the government pushed the abstention over indulgence, and since then, no more authoritative and standardized teaching materials was published. So what's the reasons that Chinese government was so reluctant to teach their children about sex? First of all, they think that they consider that sex is a very unhealthy and polluted thing. On the other hand, the teachers are too embarrassed to cover this subject in their class. Last but not least, sex education is unimportant in their exam system because all the students are trained to behave well in their exams in order to get into a famous university. But sex education is not the main subject in their exam, so they consider not to teach this in their classes. Nowadays, we are bombarded with information and we are more open-minded than before. A 2012 survey found that there are 70% of Chinese people have sex before marriage. Another survey showed that there are 88% of Chinese youth learn sex on their own, either from pornography or from online video short clips. However, Chinese government still against the tide and blinds its eyes from the truth. The information that the teenagers get from the internet may be false and is not sufficient, especially when the one-child policy was still regulating the fertility. The sex education was particularly important in order to promote the safe sex intercourse and to reduce the abortion rate. Given that there are 13 million terminations operated in state clinics and private clinics, and if we count the terminations by using drugs in it, it will be 40 millions. In addition, teaching safe sex education can effectively reduce the number of sexual transmitting disease such as HIV and the number of sex abuse. Therefore, I don't see the point that why the Chinese government not to advance their consciousness and the attention on sex education. If we consider sex education in other countries, Holland will be the best example since they teach sex education in their kindergarten. I really admire their sex education in kindergarten because they are not only teaching us about the sex intercourse and the sex knowledge, they are telling us more about the sexuality. A youth development expert for Rutgers WPF stated that sexuality is about developing your own identity, gender roles, and learning to express yourself, your wishes, and your boundaries as well. If we have sex education earlier in our school life, learning to respect the opposite sex, I believe that there will be less sexual discrimination and misconception. Boys will not ask girls whether they are bleeding when they see there are menstruation on girls' dresses. Mothers don't need to hide themselves to breastfeed. As Japan, Korea, and Taiwan take sex education as their compulsory lesson, China should not fall behind. Having desire is not guilty. We should not be ashamed of having eagerness to know more about our own body. Thank you.